Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Salebox, covering the sales beginning on the 9th of March 2012, going all the way through to the weekend, ending on the 11th. That's, of course, Sunday. My name is Totalbiscuit, rounding these deals up and hopefully finding you something worthy of your time. So let's kick it off as we should, I suppose, with Steam. So 2K is having a sale on various 2K published titles, and this is a bunch of daily deals, so things get a bit difficult in that respect, because by the time this comes out, it's not like the sale's going to be the same anyway. But do keep an eye out, because there may be some pretty damn good sales going on with the 2K Games weekend, up to 75% off a lot of these titles. Today, the day that I recorded this anyway, was Mafia 2. Tomorrow will be something different, and so on and so forth. So do just keep a lookout for that. But the games that you should be paying attention to, because they are on sale all weekend, all the way through to March the 12th, apparently, which is actually a Monday, are Darkness 2. That one is £23, $37.49 or €37.49. So the UK gets the best deal there. Admittedly, the game on PC does have some problems. They did promise to release some kind of FOV fix for it, but haven't done so as of yet, so I'm not sure whether or not it's really worth picking up. If you are the kind of person that plays on your PC but actually uses a television and a controller, then the FOV issues shouldn't be a problem for you. For me, they certainly were, and it has prevented me from playing what is otherwise, by the looks of it, a very enjoyable, admittedly rather linear shooter. I certainly enjoyed what I played of it. I thought it was fantastic, but I can't really play it for all that much, so that's something to concern yourself with there, I think. We've also got BioShock 2, which is £7, $10 or €10. BioShock 2 is, in my opinion, pretty damn solid, honestly. I think it improves a lot on the first game, but it does lack a lot of the profoundness. But the problem with BioShock is that going into Rapture a second time just isn't as interesting. I was awe-inspired by the first game, even though it had a lot of problems in terms of a lack of difficulty. Its shooting mechanics really weren't up there all that much, and indeed you could just beat the game just by power gaming with a wrench, but there was a lot to see in that game and a lot of cool exploration, and it's just not as profound the second time around, but they do improve on a lot of the combat mechanics, honestly, and playing a Big Daddy is great, especially once you get the drill. It's certainly a lot of fun for that price. I would definitely recommend it on the single-player basis. The multiplayer is absolutely forgettable. I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. Nobody really plays it anymore anyway. That game doesn't have FOV options in the menu, but you can fix it in the INI files. If you head to application data/BioShock 2, which you'll find in your documents and settings folder, go to user.ini. There's a setting there called set FOV and then degrees, and that will allow you to fix the field of view in that game. So as far as I'm concerned, that one's definitely worth a play. Not a bad price for it either. I wouldn't bother with the whole 4-pack thing, because as I said, the multiplayer is certainly very forgettable. As far as I know, this is also not the best sale it's had. Admittedly, it is a good sale, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it cheaper in previous Steam sales. But if you're looking for a rather atmospheric first-person shooter fix this weekend, you can't really go all that wrong with BioShock 2, as far as I am concerned. Those asking whether or not you need to have played the original in order to enjoy it, no, it's fairly good in terms of it being a standalone game. Admittedly, you probably won't understand some of the references, but it's still more than playable. And Civ 5 is also on sale at the moment for £9.99, $15 or €15. Civ 5. It's certainly not the best of the series, I can tell you that for a fact, and I much preferred Civ 4. I think that it's a much, much better game. I didn't have a huge amount of fun with Civilization 5, unfortunately. They took out quite a lot of micromanagement from the game, which for some people might be a good thing, but as far as I'm concerned, it really wasn't. It took away a lot of the control that you otherwise had. I don't like the fact that they switched out religion for city-states. In my opinion, city-states are much less interesting than the religion mechanic was. I thought that was much, much better and more enjoyable, but unfortunately, they thought that city-states was the best idea, which I do not agree with. I also don't agree with the idea of selling civilizations, which they did do as well. When I last played the game, it was rather buggy. I think they fixed the vast majority of that, but there are still people complaining that a year on, the game still has bugs. There's issues with the diplomacy. They limited what you could do there in comparison to Civ 4. Just, oh god. There's so many silly things here with that particular game. As far as I'm concerned, if you are really into Civ and you've played Civ 4 to death, maybe you'll get something out of it. But the fact of the matter is, you can get Civilization 4 for £5 on Steam right now. And Beyond the Sword, which is an amazing expansion for the game, sadly not standalone, I'm afraid, is about £3. That's really good. That is an incredibly good price. So I would suggest picking that up instead if you haven't played a Civilization game. Civ 4 was much better. You'll get more fun out of it. And there are a lot of great mods for it, including, of course, Fall from Heaven, which is an awesome modification. That pretty much covers the sales available on Steam at the moment that are not simply daily deals, so let's move on to GamersGate. They're having a Deus Ex weekend, which means that the Deus Ex games are heavily discounted. This is one of the best deals I've seen for Human Revolution pretty much ever, I think. I am almost certain that this beats the Amazon deal. This is £8.74, $7.49, or €12.49. So it's a bit of a kick in the teeth for the Europeans, but it's still really, really good nonetheless. And for the Americans, it's a no-brainer. You can also pick up the Augmented Edition. That'll set you back a couple of dollars more. But as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely worth having simply because it comes with the soundtrack. That in itself is great. There's also a making of, as well as an art book and things like that. There's also a motion comic, which is quite worth watching. So, yeah, with the Augmented Edition, I'd probably say it's worth having. It's a nice little upgrade for the very, very small amount of money that you pay for it. You've then also got the DLC, Explosive Mission Pack, Tactical Enhancement Pack, and Mission Plus Enhancement Bundle. Pretty much throwaway prices on these. These were annoyingly enough pre-order bonuses that you end up getting charged for. But with the amount of content that's actually available and the discounted price, I would say maybe it's worth having. It gives you an extra mission, and it also gives you a bunch of different weapons. There's actually 4 more weapons in total, which do make the game significantly more interesting. It also makes the game easier by giving you a bunch of credits, but I suppose you could throw those away without too much of an issue there. I don't usually condone buying that kind of stuff, but if it is heavily discounted, then that's okay. I think the idea is that you kind of protest it by not buying it at full price, because like, hey, this game is incomplete, then I'm not gonna pay full price for it. I will pay less than the complete price for a less than complete game. But yeah, for that price, they're definitely worth having, without question. You've then also got the DLC, which is the Missing Link. That is £2.25, £3.75, or €2.75. Admittedly, it's kind of weird that the UK gets the best price on that one, but Missing Link is also really good and definitely worth having. It's also got the only good boss fight in the game, because they went and developed one that was deliberately awesome. So that DLC is a no-brainer. And Invisible War. That doesn't exist, ignore that. But what you shouldn't ignore is the Game of the Year edition for Deus Ex, the original game, if you haven't already played it. £1.50, $2.50, or €2.50. Amazing price for an incredible game, and still, in my opinion, the best game ever made. Oh, yes, it is. It is quite old, however, so I would recommend a couple of things for it. One, there is a mod that is sadly incomplete called the HDTP, the High Definition Texture Project. This will improve the textures on a number of weapons as well as a couple of characters and doodads within the world. It does make them stand out a little bit because the rest of it isn't done, and sadly they never finished the mod, which is a bit of a kick in the teeth. Also, do look for the widescreen fix for this game because it is an old game, and as such it wasn't designed to run in widescreen resolutions. There are a number of ways to deal with this, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a great time to plug PCGamingWiki.com. This is a wiki designed to assist you with PC gaming, and it especially helps for older games because it's got a big list of resources as to how to get everything out of it, like the high-resolution mods, custom FOV, HD textures, so on and so forth. This stuff is all available on PCGamingWiki.com. Please do go use it. Start to contribute to it. I think it's a great project. It really is. Because sometimes with both old games and new, you need to find information about how to fix a game because the game just doesn't run properly on PC. PCGamingWiki.com does have that, and I would highly recommend that people both, one, check it out, and two, start to contribute their knowledge to this, because having one central place where PC gamers can go for pretty much any game to fix their game and get the mods and the patches they need, that's genius. That is a fantastic idea. PCGamingWiki.com. Go look for Deus Ex on there. You'll see a list of HD texture packs, fan-made missions, a custom launcher, and high-resolution and custom FOV modifications. That is good. Very, very good. Please go check them out and support them. All right, let's move on to GOG, shall we? They've got a sale on Activision games, which includes the following titles: Betrayal at Krondor, Return to Krondor, Call to Power 2, Dark Reign 2, Interstate 76, Phantasmagoria 2, Dark Reign and its expansion, the original Phantasmagoria, Police Quest SWAT 1 and 2, and SWAT 3 Tactical Game of the Year Edition. That's a lot of games. I haven't played all of them. If I were to give you recommendations, I would say Interstate 76 is a must-purchase because it is an absolutely classic car combat game. It looks old by today's standards. It really does, but it's certainly more than playable, and it is so good, especially with the fantastic soundtrack. And also SWAT 3. SWAT 3 is great in terms of a tactical shooter. If you want something that's like the old Rainbow Six games, but with the idea that you don't necessarily kill everybody, there's a lot of planning and tactical stuff going on, SWAT 3 is really, really good. The rest of them I can't really recommend one way or the other. I suppose Call of Power 2 is pretty cool. It was a Civ game not made by Sid Meier, and it's alright, especially if you want something that's got a lot of future stuff in it, whereas the traditional Sid Meier games don't generally go all the way to future tech unless you're playing something like Alpha Centauri. So you can do some kind of nifty stuff with Call to Power 2, but aside from that, I would say Interstate 76 and SWAT 3 are must-purchases on GOG this weekend. And last but by no means least, we've got Get Games Go, and they have a 4-pack of Renegade Ops for £20, $30, or €25.98. Pretty good price, honestly. That obviously takes it down to about £5 each. And this game is awesome. It really, really is. I am a massive fan of Renegade Ops. It's made by the guys that gave you Just Cause 2. It's a fantastic top-down co-op shooter. A lot of great explosions. It reminds me very much of G.I. Joe in terms of its influence. It's completely over the top. And the PC version does indeed include a bonus character in the form of Gordon Freeman that can unleash antlions on people. That's pretty cool, is it not? They've also got Might and Magic Clash of Heroes for £6, $6.49, or €5.98. Good price for the Americans and the Europeans there as well. This is a good game. You've probably seen me do my WTF Is on it. It's a mixture of RPG, strategy, and puzzle. It's got some very interesting mechanics, and I would recommend having a look at my WTF Is video on the subject. It's quite long, but it should give you an impression of what that game is all about. For that price, it's definitely worthwhile in my opinion. And on the subject of Might and Magic, they've also got Hero 6 for £15, $25, or €25, as well as the Deluxe Edition, which really isn't worth having. The problem, I suppose, with Hero 6 is that while it is good for what it is very similar to the previous games. It doesn't really add anything. It polishes things up, but after looking at all of the great changes that Heroes 5 put in, admittedly it suffered from some technical issues, but it's hard to go back to the idea of not having alternating upgrades and branching stuff and some really complex skill trees, whereas Hero 6 does away with quite a lot of that. It's certainly a very good game. I think if you've never played Heroes before, you could probably do worse than to start with Heroes 6. It's certainly the easiest introduction to the series. Then, of course, go back and play maybe Heroes 5 and its expansion, Tribes of the East, and Heroes 3, which is considered by many people to be the absolute classic, and is available with both of its expansions on GOG. There's a lot of single-player content in Heroes 6, but I was never really into that, and it doesn't have the random map generator, which means that its skirmish longevity, I suppose, is a little bit limited, and that game's never been good in multiplayer. It's just too slow. So I don't know. It's a half-hearted recommendation. The game in itself is good. The problem is it's the 6th game in the series and doesn't really advance the series in any meaningful respect. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is a problem. There are a couple of neat mechanics, such as the dynasty system and the whole Conflux Online thing, but for the most part, they're kind of gimmicky and don't really add all that much to the game. So it's a cautious recommendation, I feel, for Hero 6 in that regard. Okay, folks, that is me done for rounding up the Salebox deals here this weekend. Hopefully you found something useful in there.